Good. Hey, it's Coach Nikki, and thank you guys for joining us for this week's stress call. Now, to all of you guys in the U.S., you guys have been following for a while, so thank you guys so much for being here. But this week's a little different. Welcome to all our global participants in this week's stress calls. So we now have a stress call in the evenings and at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I keep messing up my times because I deal with all the time zones. So 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So for those of you guys who are in the U.S. and want to actually join in on that call, you're more than welcome to on a regular basis. And those of you in Africa can join on the evening call. It's going to be in the middle of the night on Saturday morning for you. But you're still welcome to join. You might be awake. But this week is also different because somebody I highly respect and value, not only as a friend, but somebody who is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to mental health. And he has a million letters past his name, but I usually stop at just, hey, Jared, what's up? Let's play games. Because his family is the family that I normally play games with, but sadly, well, not sadly, because I really enjoy it. Our conversations revolve around the amazing methods that are out there. And this week, we're going to talk about a few of them. So this is our, third take?
It's at least our third take.
We're at least on the third take because we tried it. No, it's the second then.
Is it?
Yeah, no. Okay, we're on a multiple take. So hopefully this one works out tonight because we're not using my camera, we're using his. And I'm going to let you spend some moments explaining your alphabet beyond your name.
Sure. And yeah, I have an MSW, a JD, and an LCSW, and currently I'm really just only using the LCSW. I'm no longer a practicing lawyer on inactive status with that because I left it to follow my first love, which was the healing art of therapy. And so that was the first thing I did when I graduated school. Just after a little bit of law clerk work, I went into therapy, loved it. Had to leave it because I couldn't afford to keep doing it in California. But ultimately, I decided I'd make a comeback. And when I did, I realized that there were not a lot of methods that were being used regularly and commonly in the field that fit most of the people that were coming back again and again for treatment. Because most of the people that were coming back again and again for treatment were dealing with deep-set attachment issues, trauma, or complex trauma, developmental trauma, conflated with new, fresh, live, raw PTSD.
Many layers is what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, and then a lot of times we're looking at just addiction treatment, but it's so rare for me to work with somebody on an addiction that does not also include attachment issues and trauma.
Yeah, well, how many times have we seen with the VA where a veteran comes in with some issues, we'll call it issues, and they go, you've been drinking, you have to go to SARP before we touch these issues. That happens a lot. Matter of fact, it's one of the reasons why I actually opened the PTSD retreat a long time ago, is because veterans were coming back in for that. But what we found is if we worked with the issues, the addictions also changed. So there's really cool stuff that's happening. But okay, that's the end of the formalities because the best part of our thing is just chit-chatting. And last week, we actually went over a really cool method. I actually ended up using it, guys. So just, Jared is like a sneaky therapist. He just kind of sneaks it right in there. And next thing you know, you feel like you've gone to a mental health, emotional health spa. Except for the fact you didn't have to get undressed and you could do it anywhere. So let's talk about this because this was the coolest thing last week.
Yeah, I mean, last week we were chilling, we were talking, we were having some really good time making some homemade sushi.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's it. It was. That's his oldest daughter. She graduated. Oh, round of applause. And we celebrated by making homemade sushi.
Yeah, it was fun.
Really good. It was a huge mess.
Oh yeah, and we were talking shop as usual.
Yes,
we
exactly.
want to talk about healing because we dig it, we're into it, and so
passion and purpose.
Yeah, and so as I was kind of just talking and remembering and attuning to myself, getting all chill and centered in my
and
body.
I was going, nee.
Yeah, we were talking about some of the, I think we didn't talk much about it, but it was just the stresses that you had building up. and I could very much feel shifts and changes in my body as I noticed you. When you get centered and you notice someone else, there's this natural human thing that just comes awake and alive. Your mirror neuron responses just come awake, and you feel stuff with other people in a more conscious way, instead of just feeling it like, oh, I don't feel okay around this person, or I feel like there's stress. No, you actually just you realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm here with this person, I'm feeling it with this person. And so we talked about finding the feeling in your body.
Yeah, and by the way, that all that back and forth is so normal, and we sometimes, I've actually done this myself before I learned to block. Take on other people's emotions and other people's stuff and totally react and unconsciously claiming it.
Yeah, and honestly, I've seen that there's a certain sort of it starts as a liability, but it turns into a superpower when you're conscious, like you were saying. You're able to block it out and stay present with this person while you're riding a bucking bronco with them. But
Yeah!
yeah, right. That's when it gets exhilarating sometimes. But what I've noticed is some of the newer therapists that sort of came in with this superpower, they'll walk into a room and immediately start having mirror responses to others. They feel like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, to give the southern saying, for this. And then
I just visualized that, by the way. Poor cat.
Poor cat. But yeah, so they'll just start attuning to people. And so I had a fellow manager tell me, look, sometimes my people just need a little help after they've been having responses to others, to some of the clients that are really volatile, right? And so sometimes I'll sit down with other therapists and feel stuff with them, teach them how to notice the triggered response in their body. And as they watch it, the thing starts to change. I mean, anybody who's been practicing mindfulness, who's been breathing and noticing and attending to their feelings, they're going to notice it. It starts
you
to
mean
change.
like the tingles I started feeling and the shake, and you're like, keep going.
Yeah, and for you were willing, you knew what it was, and so you wanted to keep going. For some people, they freak out. They say, oh my goodness, I my body is going crazy inside. There's stuff popping and bursting and shivering and
well, it's very disconcerting if you're not expecting it.
Yeah, especially if you've been checked out, kind of dissociated for a long time. Getting re-embodied, there's a little turbulence, so we always take it slow.
Okay, I'm doing it again. Just so you guys know, he goes into lingo frequently. I have no problem with interrupting him. That's because I love him that much. So,
thank you.
Thank
you. I'm gonna speak English.
Thank you. It's a good language to
yeah,
practice.
So we were sitting together, and I invited you to just notice where the feeling was, and as the discharge, the movement inside your body started to happen.
Yeah, all that energy.
Yeah, that energy. I could immediately feel my body reacting to that, and so that's why I was saying stuff like, all right, good, it looks like something's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of seems like it's happening here.
He did a lot of this that night, and I was like, okay, and he noticed me doing this, and he's like, okay, it's moving, okay, that's good, let it keep moving, and these all sorts of comments, so keep going.
Right, and so my watching you while you did this heightened your ability to feel. The insula, the part of the brain that becomes really active when you're deeply attending to what's going on inside of you, it becomes more active when somebody is witnessing in a non-judgmental, caring way.
A totally supportive, sacred space.
Right, and so this interplay between us, you feel I have a mirror response. I metabolize it and start feeling it moving through my body, right?
Your bobby? Yes.
My bobby.
Okay,
I'm
feeling it moving through my body, yes.
And then my response to you is going to have kind of the digested version of what it was.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a specific counselor, and it doesn't have to be a specific therapist. There's many different people that are out there that on all different levels that people can work with. But what about if they're working with a friend?
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And well, back in the days of the encounter movement, I'm no expert in it, but it's like people were doing a lot of work with the encounter groups, the informal sort of person-to-person therapy groups, and there's some weird things that happened with that. I don't know all the details, but the beauty is, if you're with somebody who is a good friend, someone that you can actually really trust, if something goes awry inside of you, if you find yourself in a state where you are becoming really emotionally unhinged and you're with somebody who you really trust to take care of you, or if necessary, take you to somewhere to get deeper help, or to notice quick enough to help you chill out and calm down before it gets bad. Yeah, it's a very useful thing to do with another person.
Especially someone that's actually used to seeing you get all hyped up and is good at telling you, hey, chill out for a second. You just need to take a moment, breathe.
Yeah, and sometimes in couples counseling, when it comes to the body-oriented aspect, I'll sometimes have them stand and talk, and if it's something where it's appropriate, if they're dealing with sort of touch issues and closeness issues, to have them sort of hold each other and notice where the tensions are in the other person's body and
Ooh.
notice their own feeling. What ends up happening is a lot of times when you have somebody who feels unheard because the other person isn't talking, for example, that's just a real common thing in couples therapy. You know, it's they'll suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I feel all this stuff in my body. He's actually doing the work, or she's actually doing the work. You know, and there's stuff going on inside. I don't have to have the words yet.
That's so cool. Thinking about couples therapy and thinking about that you made me think about during human caring listening techniques. I actually have people, if they have a trust and an already established relationship, they can hand on a heart to hand on a heart, and they breathe together.
That's beautiful.
And
yeah.
It's literally to open doors between them and to get deeper into what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see transformation happen, as long as, I don't like doing with gigantic groups. I did learn that 1,000 people is too huge when there's a language barrier, because then it's like, that's what she said, and that kind of disrupts things. But there was still some benefits, and it was cool to see people. I saw women doing this, and then both started crying. And then I always had women with women, always men with men. And even when we had odd pairings, we would do hands, don't touch, just feel the energy between.
Gotcha.
And I just gave myself the chills. But it's amazing. It's amazing. Tears start rolling. People start hugging that didn't know each other, afterwards. And it's just amazing how much energy can heal.
Yeah, and recognizing, there's going to be a heightened connection and, for lack of a better word, an intimacy between you, when you go on that journey together.
Yeah.
And so recognize, like, yeah, you're gonna feel a lot of connection, a lot of closeness. For many people, it's a really spiritual thing to feel so deeply with another person.
It may even be the first time.
Yeah, and for some people it is. Yeah, they've often not noticed when they were connected. They just noticed, oh, I feel better around some people than others. And to have this deep, intense experience, it's a game changer. It's an eye opener.
Yeah. And for me last week, I went from being to having my arms, I was shifting and I was spazzing out, for lack of a better term. But by the end of the weekend, I was very unbalanced last week. I am more closely aligned with what works for me, more centered and more comfortable. And I explained this on take number 1 and 2, or one, the one that actually worked but didn't work. I explained to him that it felt like I went through a mental health spa. Like, at first I had things going on for a few days. And I said at first it was like a Thai massage, except for the fact that it didn't hurt. And it was amazing. And I would love to see more people experiencing this.
Yeah, reality is that one of the first methods that really helped me understand this is the work of Peter Levine with his SomaticExperiencing method.
Time out. Guess who I get to speak to this week? Certain Dr. Levine.
Oh, I wonder if it's the same dude.
So,
he's quite a guy.
We'll have to talk about that because they're thinking about coming on. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, his work is amazing. Honestly, he brings together the best sources. He's 40 years of figuring this stuff out, till now. And people, all sorts of practitioners will use his SomaticExperiencing method. Therapists, body workers, other folks who want to be somatic experiencing practitioners.
Okay, we're going to break it back down again. Somatic.
Yeah, somatic experiencing. We're talking about a whole integrative sort of body. I want to say body soul when you're talking about the soma.
So we're not focusing on head. We're focusing on exactly the whole life experience in that moment. The whole body experience, not life. Whole body experience, spirit, soul, multiple layers.
Yeah, and honestly, I appreciate the word life because there are so many things from the past that still are alive in you in implicit processes that don't ever hit the frontal lobes with memories. You know, we don't think, when we usually think of memories, we're thinking about explicit memory, you know, and one of the best explanations of the difference between explicit memory and some of the deeper stuff inside, well, it came from Levine and then Patricia Ogden with her sensory motor therapy and a lot of the things that she came up with in a convergent or parallel and then convergent way. You know, I gotta say, being able to bring the body into the work you do, into the work of consciousness, it's critical.
Yes.
It's critical, and one of the things that Levine helped me really see was that, and honestly, everything else that I did was more meaningful after studying his work.
That's amazing, and I say that's amazing because it's not just you that's affected.
Right.
It's every single person you're coming in contact with, not just the clients that come in, but also your peers, you know, and it's a benefit to everyone, and even into your family and your his neighbors. It's a ripple effect, and it's a beautiful ripple. I love that ripple. May it continue. One of the things I was going to mention earlier, now I'm actually stuck on it because it doesn't matter. I lost it, not I'm stuck on it. I'm still having issues. But what I'm seeing you share with me, when you work with me and you're talking, just, you know, I feel like I'm working when I'm talking with you sometimes. And that's a good thing. Because I'm like, I get to release in a good way. But then it's like, I don't have to think. I can just feel and be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you're not trying to, a lot of times when you're utilizing mind-based methods,
say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, thought-based methods, cognitive methods, insight-oriented methods, narrative putting together methods. They're extraordinarily useful, but really what's so useful about them is that you're using the inhibitory pushback system to then capture emotion and do things, but it is the pushing back system when you're working from the bottom up with the body. Yeah, what ends up happening is there's this natural flow, and a lot of the brilliance that you may have picked up in learning some of these self-help methods or mind-based methods just comes rushing in. I mean, I've worked with guys that did cognitive or rational emotive behavior therapy, and they've learned this process for working things out, but it's not quite enough when they're deeply triggered and say on a traumatic level. And so what will happen a lot of times is as they start to hold the energy moving through their body, the energy and information coursing through their body, and just be with it and watch it and get curious about it, and it starts to move and they start feeling better, whatever sort of thinking errors were coming up, they start confronting them naturally,
which
automatically.
Is huge.
Yeah.
When they've gone, so many folks have come forward, you know, well, I've tried all the therapies, I've been here, I've done this, and yet they'll do the work when it's coming from the body up.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like,
yeah, and none of it's lost because all of the wisdom of it, it's like that stuff that I thought wasn't working for me anymore, that was working for other people and I maybe thought they were lying, no, now it works for me.
Yeah, and we said this on tape too, in reference to the fact that we're not just talking surface stresses and traumas. We're talking about deep-seated stress and trauma, and multiple layers, and that comes from multiple layers. Now, you guys have heard me say this before. Our bodies are like a Coke bottle, and we have so many different stuff that's just been piling up, things that we don't even know. Like, for example, being squeezed out of a tiny hole when you're a big baby. That can be traumatizing. Think about it. And you don't remember that, but your body sure does. I mean, that's just not a comfortable thing. Imagine coming out cone-headed. Yeah. You know, that's there. That's sitting at the bottom of your Coke. and you don't know it's there, and so it's still sitting there. And then you've got the first time you learned how to ride a bike, and you'd been trusting mom and dad, and they said they're going to be there, and then they let go, and you fell. Oh my gosh, they lied to me. I got hurt. Now we have more things that are piling, and then you have the first time you got your heart broken, you lost a tooth, or somebody helped you lose a tooth, and these are little things, but they add up, and you may not, you're an adult, you're going, that's not important, but for your body, it's all sitting there.
Oh yeah, I mean, even before we have words to put to it, I mean, the primal fear of not being able to breathe as a new baby, the longing for attachment when you had to be in the incubator, and it's like, yeah, there's no words for that. There's no explicit memory. You couldn't even see. There's no visual memory. But absolutely that unsettled feeling in the body.
And we're still talking normal stuff. We haven't even talked about the big T's. There's little traumas, and then there's big traumas. And I call them little T's and big T's.
Yeah,
but we're still talking about the little, every person deals with T's.
Yeah, let alone the situation where your natural bodily needs or your survival needs were thwarted by force. I mean, we're talking, it's like every single one of these come into play in the work. I mean, how often, will I see somebody who's working through an intense loss or trauma? Usually indirectly. I don't usually take a direct approach. We start on the outskirts and move in.
God bless spiraling.
Yeah, right. You spiral in. And so, what'll happen is they'll often start having this implicit memory come up. This triggering, this feeling of being unsettled in the body. They'll feel it shivering and tingling and heating through the body. Sometimes even with jolts and shakes. And as long as I let them know, hey, it's all right. This is a good thing. Then they don't freak out, right? They don't stop the process. And then what will happen is they'll say, oh my goodness, and I haven't thought about that in a long time, and they don't have to tell me yet because I already know that it's something from way back there, and they'll just keep going, and when they'll tell me, if I'll tell them, if you're comfortable telling me, go ahead, we'll talk about it. They'll tell me about stuff like, oh, I was so young, this happened, and I remember this, and then I had all these irrelevant memories of other things that happened around that time. And it's a real common experience as the body reintegrates. You get all this sort of weave of memories that comes back in.
That's kind of interesting because with PTSD, you have physical symptoms as well. Like all of a sudden, guys start thinking, oh, I'm getting old, my hip is hurting. Well, actually, it's not his hip hurting. It's a phantom pain from back in high school when he got tackled on the football field and he bruised his hip bad enough to where he had to stop for a while.
Oh yeah, it'll come up, right?
It's coming up now.
Yeah.
Or they have, all right, I'm going to be honest, gas, really bad, raunchy gas come out. But it's shifting. It's trapped energy moving. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep going. You guys, he's awesome. We can do this all night, but we're not going to.
Yeah, and so really, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the human caring listening technique.
Yeah.
And how you will help people really access the feelings inside the bodily processes, working with connection and deep listening. Really empathic listening. And there's release that can come with that. There's a lot of release that can come with that. And so really, when you can bring another person into your life, you can attend to your feelings. You can start to become centered and feel the release in your body.
And this is before you're even talking.
Yeah, even before you're talking.
So you don't have to share the trauma.
Yeah, you don't.
You're stuck in that moment.
There's a lot of work I've done with people where they don't share until they're good and ready. It's a thing where, I mean, just sort of a common example is I'll be working with someone and we'll just be leaning from side to side and breathing and feeling their body want to elongate and pull in, and then they might pull in and get really, really small, and I might just mention, oh yeah, sometimes the body just needs to get small, like I don't know, it kind of looks like you don't want to be seen or something, and this glimmer of recognition comes up, and I can tell that there's a real intense energy that my body is registering through this mirror response system. And we'll just sort of talk about it on a non-content level until they're ready to talk about it. And
so basically you're talking around it without getting it. So when you say non-content, I'm just explaining.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll even tell somebody like, hey, look, if there was something that happened in your life that you at some point want to tell me, it's okay, and you don't have to tell me right now if you're not ready to tell me. All right, and then sometimes people will tell me later, they'll say, I kind of want to tell you, but I kind of don't, and I'll just tell them, it's all right.
It's what works.
Yeah. Yeah, do it when you're ready.
So, you know what, that brings me to something, and we're gonna step away from this method, which, by the way, you guys, when I did this, it was nothing short of transformational. And you guys know I use my tools a lot, and I work with individuals. I've been doing this a long time. Anyone who thinks that they're perfect just because they know how to do something, they've got some life lessons coming. It doesn't matter whether you are, a Mr. Powell, Coach Nikki, or Joe, or it doesn't matter. We all can use these tools to better and build a better life for ourselves, one that's less, stressed and less packed with past. Kind of like, have you ever stuffed, packed brown sugar into a cup, and it gets really compacted and it comes out still solid? Yeah, that's stress in the body. It sits there until we break it up and work with it. And what's really awesome is there's so many different ways to do that, and we've talked about a couple tonight. But what I really want to hit right now is getting people to recognize. How do we get people to recognize that maybe it would serve them to reach out to someone? And so that's part one. And part two, what about those individuals that are so far away from being able to reach professional services? What would you recommend?
Well, I guess when it comes to knowing when to reach out, when you're able to reach enough of a level of stillness that any shift inside of you is noticeable, it's a heck of a lot easier to sort of know when you need to reach out to someone. I mean, especially if they're already kind of in your life and in your presence. What'll happen is you're learning how to get calm. You're learning how to be okay in your own skin and to feel the pent up stress survival energy coursing through your body and working out. What happens is you're just walking around and you see a friend, and you for some reason you just keep thinking, oh, I can't stop kind of noticing them. And then at that point, it's really easy to say, hey, look, I just want to check in. Are you all right? And sometimes your colleague, your friend, your family member will be like, no, I'm not. And you realize it's like they're looking pretty good. But
I did this, by the way.
So you do that, yeah. Right. So you see so this is how it works. And then you're able to really be there for somebody when it comes to when you're far away from services.
Yeah.
There's only so far you can go with self-help.
Exactly.
A lot of times bringing a friend in to explore it with you, to feel it with you, to be your sort of healing buddy. And then a lot of times it's a lot easier if you're gonna go email somebody that you really like, say their self-help stuff on YouTube or something. It's a lot easier than to reach out to them. Hey, me and my buddy are trying to do this together, and we were just wondering if you had a few tips for us because this is what happened. They might give you a few tips.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. And just so you guys know, if you're struggling to recognize where you're at, let's say you've been so disassociated, you cut yourself off basically from your emotions. Go and look at the 5 mindsets of stress. I've got it on LinkedIn. Basically, I've broken down the mindsets so you can actually see yourself when you're feeling most free and you feel you can do anything, all the way down to death. And I don't mean suicide. I mean just do not want to engage in any way, shape, or form. It's complete and utter disconnect from everything. But there can be suicide. When people reach this stage, they tend to have choices, and they weigh those choices a little bit heavier. But look at this, and you can look at it from a very logical, rational standpoint, and you can see it. Sometimes it may be easier for your friend to see it in you before you see it, but when you feel that, it's really important to reach out. Don't stay in that dangerous space. Reach out to a friend. I have gone up to Jared, I need to talk to somebody. Right now, I am not okay, and I really need help. My stresses are on too many different levels. And Jared went, here you go, and gave me a few names, And I found somebody, and I went in and I talked, and then one of my other friends came back into my life that is also somebody that was that purpose. And so I was able to go back to that relationship. And just so you guys know, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a scientist, the president, a brand new kid on the block, everyone deserves to have someone to talk to. And if you don't have someone that you trust explicitly, then find a perfect stranger. You know, there are perfect strangers out there that do this and are loving that mental health journey and living that purpose of healing. Reach out and make a friend. And not just, I don't just mean a friend from a let's go play board gaming, which we do, but I do mean reach out and actually set an appointment with somebody and sit down. And if that's not available in your area, go to somebody you trust, a spiritual leader, your pastor, your bishop, your priest. You know, they're there for you. They've most likely received training for this, and they're there. And if you're having troubles calming, take a few deep breaths. It's a really easy way to calm yourself so you can even get to that point, as he's sharing. And you've done this so many times on so many different levels. What do you think about meditation?
Meditation is one of the best ways to build your neural platform, unless when you go to meditate with whatever method you're using, it sets off the fireworks before you can actually feel, calm. For some people, a little meditation will send them into serial panic attacks. For some people, they'll feel, which is a lot safer, they'll feel a really intense, crazy boredom, and they'll say, "Oh, I just don't want to do it." But that's the boredom. Usually, as long as you don't push it and you just kind of stay with it, there will be some neural discharge, some like shivering and shaking that'll come through. And honestly, when it comes,
you can say, or it can be restlessness.
Yeah, restlessness. Yeah, a lot of times there's something behind that, and those defensive mechanisms that give you that restlessness or that boredom, they're not your enemy. Collaborate with them. Don't try to rip them off or set them aside. Don't try to drink them off or smoke them off or needle them off or something. Let them be with them.
Do not give a Band-Aid to a sucking chest wound, folks.
Yeah. I mean, if you're taking your prescribed medication or your healer's herb balm or something, it's like, take that. But as long as it doesn't lobotomize or numb you for a while, and you can actually feel.
Which I'm going to go ahead and add, medication should never be a first response. It's the last resort. You work with the body. You work with the source.
Yeah, and a lot of times
that's my personal belief.
I can see that. I mean, for a lot of folks, that's the way to do it. There's every now and again, for somebody who goes into serial panic attacks when they try to meditate.
That's different.
Yeah, the window of clarity provided by the right level of medication it can sometimes help people get in so that they don't armor up or go into panic.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
It gives them that window to actually step forward and go, okay, I can actually do this.
Oh yeah, when you can get to a point where you can meditate and feel the goodness, like the shifting, changing, and connection in your body, then it's such a great way to build your neural platform, so that all sorts of things are going to work better.
Okay, you're doing it again. Neural
platform. The words, yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys. I promise I'll keep interrupting.
Yeah. So to build this foundation of just being able to feel so okay in your own skin that you're able to be present for healing. You can be present for others. You can be with them and feel stuff with